Hello, I'm happy to be with you today, and it's hard to believe that it's already time to start thinking about holiday get togethers, holiday baking, anything Christmas, Thanksgiving, even New Year's related for the end of the year celebrations. And I want to come to you today with this video to talk to you about things to plan for if you're going to do bulk baking, fundraisers, even just creating extra income for yourself, or bulk gift ideas, specifically with cinnamon rolls. So first I'm going to talk to you today about if you're going to bake in bulk, things you need to do to be prepared to bake in bulk. And then I'm going to talk to you about if you're planning on fundraising or baking to sell for extra income, things that you want to consider if you're going to do that as well. So let's jump into this and let's start planning and thinking for the holidays ahead. Also, just a quick disclaimer in this video and in the description of this video, it may contain affiliate links, and if you click on them, I may potentially make a small commission, help me to fund my channel and be able to serve you better. So let's get started. I'm specifically talking about cinnamon rolls in this video. I have been making cinnamon rolls for, I asked my husband, he's like, I have no idea how long. I'm thinking maybe 5 years I've been doing this, where I make cinnamon rolls and I sell them, and I've done it for different various reasons. I've done them for fundraisers for my church, where I've sold cinnamon rolls, and then all of the money from that goes to support a certain missions organization. Usually it's Speed the Light. That's our big group that we support through the Assemblies of God Church. But I also have done fundraisers just to generate extra income for my family for whatever events that we have going on, and that may be something you want to do as well. So I'm going to share with you things that I do to make this successful. So the first thing, and one of the most important things, not necessarily for me, but for people who purchase or eat my cinnamon rolls, is they want an icing to go with it. Now, I have a video. It's called Make, Freeze, Rise, Bake, Eat Cinnamon Rolls, and I'll put the link in the description, so if you want to go watch that. That is how I do this actual baking, but this that I'm talking about is the planning behind the scenes kind of thing. So I'm going to show you what I use for icing. We have a store. I don't know if Dollar Tree is anywhere around you, but I like to shop at Dollar Tree to get containers for my icing. And this is, now depending on when I go, they don't always have cinnamon roll icing containers in stock. And when they do have them, I always buy a couple, because sometimes I go in and they don't have any. So this particular one, this holds 1.5 cups of icing. This isn't my favorite container to buy. They actually have one that holds, like, it's either a cup or 1.25 cup. It has a green lid. That's the one I prefer. But this is 5 containers. I got them for $1. It may be $1.25 now. But that's about 20 cents per container that's cutting into my profit. So that's not bad. And then what I do is I'll make my icing in bulk, depending on how much I need, put it in here. I like to use packing tape, and just to make it a little bit more secure, I'll put packing tape around it, and then I'll freeze it. And then when I go to give my cinnamon rolls to my customer, I'll put this in with the bag that I have. Well, I put the cinnamon rolls in a bag, and I put this by itself, and I put them all in like a grocery bag with instructions, and I give them this. So cinnamon roll container, that is the most affordable way that I have found to package and send icing with my cinnamon rolls. Okay. All right, next thing, you want to make sure that you have plenty of bags. I use gallon size freezer bags. These are the off brand. You can buy name brand if you want to. This is all I have in my pantry. I need to go buy some more depending on what's available and how much I'm willing to spend at that time, whether or not I have a coupon. It depends on what I buy. I have found that these in the generic are fine. I don't necessarily like the generics with the slide top. To me, those don't always work as well. So you want to make sure you have plenty of freezer bags. Gallon size, if you're going to do a dozen cinnamon rolls, you need the gallon size bags. Make sure you have those. Next thing is you want to make sure you have enough pans. And I'm including a link for these pans. I'll show you. These are the ones that I like to use. I actually have 4 of them. These came from Sam's Club, but not everyone has access to buy items from Sam's. So I'm putting a link for these that I found that I would think is just like these to Amazon on there if you need to purchase these. I have 4. And if I'm making 4 batches of rolls at the time, which an Anchor mixer can handle it, you're going to need 4 pans. So this will hold 1 batch of cinnamon rolls, a dozen cinnamon rolls. I'll put them on here, put them in the freezer. Well, before I put them in the freezer, I'm going to wrap them in saran wrap. So I put my rolls on here, and you can see this in that video. Then I'm going to put saran wrap over them, let that freeze, and then I will, once they're frozen, then you can put them in your Ziploc bag. So you don't necessarily need the freezer wraps per se, but this is what I had to show you for the video. So pans and your saran wrap. All right, next, you need to make sure you have plenty of freezer space. And you don't necessarily have to have it on the actual freezer shelf. Like, I'll take mine and I'll stack it on top of, you know, items that's in the freezer, just so you have enough room to spread your pans around to let your cinnamon rolls thaw, or not thaw, you want them to freeze after you have made them. So that's something to consider. Before you start everything, you want to be able to put these right in the freezer after you've cut them and laid them out on your pan to freeze. So you got to have freezer space to put them in, and they're going to need to freeze for about 12 hours. And I don't like to let mine freeze for too long because I want to get them bagged up as soon as they're frozen and go ahead and get them sealed in the bag. All right, next thing is, how are you going to cut your cinnamon rolls? If you're planning, I've heard people use dental floss, just a regular knife, a manual knife. Nothing wrong with that, but if you're planning on baking a lot, then you may want something a little bit faster. Now, I looked these up online. This was a wedding gift that my husband and I received. So it's almost 20 years old. We're going to celebrate our 20th anniversary summer of 24. So this specific one I saw on Amazon. There's 2 left, and they're like $84 a piece, and that's outrageous. But I recommend a good electric knife. This is the best way to cut cinnamon rolls I have found. It's fast. It's even. I always spray mine with, the cooking spray so that it just smooths right in. I am putting a link. If I were to purchase today, I am including a link of what I would recommend that I would use. Just very similar to this, but it's just not the Black & Decker brand. And I keep mine stored in the box, so works great. All right, then of course you need to make sure you have all of your ingredients. It's terrible to be in the middle of baking and then realize you don't have all of your ingredients. How do I know? I've done it before. I've had to leave the kitchen, leave the house, go uptown to the store to finish getting what I need to finish my project, and that's just frustrating and pointless if you do your homework ahead of time and know what you're doing. Okay, and then my last tip, if you're planning on baking in bulk, specifically cinnamon rolls, make sure that you plan so that your everyday tasks do not interrupt what you're doing, or you need to make sure that you incorporate your daily task to fit into your baking schedule. If I'm doing a day of heavy baking, I'm not going to be doing laundry that day, and I'm not going to be cooking a big meal for the family. Like, my focus that day is to make sure everything else is taken care of so I can focus solely on what I'm doing in the kitchen that day, which is working to make cinnamon rolls. And it can be an all-day task. It really is, depending on how many you're going to do. Okay, so if you're baking in bulk, those are things that you need to consider when you're going to be making your cinnamon rolls. All right, so now if you're planning on selling your cinnamon rolls, I want to tell you about some things you need to consider if you're going to market them and sell them. Okay, first of all, I recommend that you go ahead and decide ahead of time how many batches of cinnamon rolls you're going to plan on making. My mixer can handle 4 at the time. I personally only like to do 3 at the time, just because it is a lot of dough. It's a lot of work to make that many batches back to back to back. It just is. To me, it's physically tiring to roll that dough out and work it up, and you're just doing that. It's time consuming, and it is tiring. So I like to do 3 at the time, and then I may do 3 more at the time. And I don't like to make them too far out. Like, I want them to not be in the freezer more than about 2 weeks before I need to get rid of them to get them to my customers, because I want them to be fresh. They will last in the freezer for several months, but I don't like to make them too far in advance. So I'm usually doing a lot back to back to back so that I have them fresh and ready to go for my customers. So when I think about how many I'm gonna make, because I advertise on Facebook. That's how I do it, and I'll put a post out. Hey, I'm taking orders for Thanksgiving, and then I'll do another one if I do it this year. I'll do another one again for Christmas, and people will respond, and then I'll usually go and turn off the comments once I get as many as I want to do. Let's say 10 or 12. If I do 12 orders, then I would need to plan on baking I need to have 4 different segments of time that I allot to making cinnamon rolls. And then what I will do once I have my limit, I will create a waiting list. And so if someone says, hey, I want to get an order of cinnamon rolls, then I'll respond and say, I've maxed out the number of cinnamon rolls that I'm going to be able to make, but I will put you on a waiting list, or if someone cancels, then I'll get with you and let you know that I have some available. And most people appreciate that. And then if I have a weeknight or some extra time where I can make that for that person, I'll certainly fit it in, because that's more income that I can make from the work that I'm doing. Also too, I do not like making just one batch at the time. I won't do it. Like if someone just responds, for example, I had a friend reach out to me. She said, hey, can you please make me 2 dozen? I want one for a gift and I want one for my family. I'll do that, but I don't like to just do one. To me, it's not worth the work if I can't get at least 2 orders out of me messing up my kitchen and doing all this work. But now you may view that differently. That's just how I like to do it. Also too, I want to think about distribution. How am I going to get rid of these orders? How am I going to get the pickup out? One time I think I did 20, this is insane. It was 20 orders that I did. And so what I did is I planned for the family to go out to eat. And we just went to a little restaurant in town, and I put everything in a cooler, and I said, hey, I'm going to be at this location for an hour and a half. Please come by and meet me. And that's how I distributed the ones that I sold that time. I work with some people who purchase from me, and then different scenarios, but you got to figure out all the distribution components as well if you're going to sell to a lot of customers. Also too, another thing you need to consider is payment. How are you going to take payment from these people? I do cash or check or Venmo, and I don't ask for people to pay me ahead of time. They can just pay me when I meet them. Now, if there's somebody that I've never met before that I don't know and they're reaching out to me about purchasing, depending on how I feel, I may do a little bit of checking around. Hey, is this person good? I don't want to go through this work if they're going to fall through and not come up. But thankfully, I've never had that happen. So that's a good thing. Okay, and then my last tip. I'm super paranoid whenever I'm making food to send out to customers, because I do not want to send out a dirty product or anything that's contaminated. So I always pull my hair up, I always wear a hat, and then I put a hairnet on top of all of that, and I make sure I'm wearing a clean shirt, and I've got my kitchen spotless and all my utensils and everything is clean, so that when I'm working, that I feel like I'm giving the best possible scenario and atmosphere to provide a clean product for my customers. And I even have gloves that I can wear if necessary. Also too, just a quick tip, if you've got someone who says, hey, we have lactose intolerant, you can make this cinnamon rolls. You can use margarine or plant-based butter in your filling for your cinnamon rolls. It will totally work fine. I omit the egg in my bread products most of the time, just because I've had people with egg allergies. So if I leave the egg out, then that's something that I don't have to worry about in my dough. And then for the icing, I will attach the icing that I use. It's fantastic, and you can use that if you need an icing recipe. But the icing does have milk in it, so if you can't do that, you can just use confectionery sugar and water for a base icing, or you might could use almond milk. That's something that you could work on your own to figure out a lactose-free icing that you could use if you have a lactose. But that's another way that you can promote your cinnamon rolls. Hey, there is a lactose-free option available if you need it, and then I just make those. specifically for that person that needs the lactose free. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I will get back with you on that. It's something I enjoy. I like working and being busy, and this is a great way to generate income for whatever purpose you're trying to raise money for. In my area, when I first started selling cinnamon rolls, which I believe was pre-COVID, I was selling them for $25 a dozen with the side of icing, and it's approximately 1 cup of icing. I've increased my price to $30 a dozen, and I advertise them as freshly milled wheat because people love them because they're amazing. And I use the Breadbecker's basic dough recipe and their filling recipe. It's in their red recipe collection cookbook. I'll put that in here. And I think it might actually be online where you can see it too in my videos. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. And happy holiday baking as we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. We'll see you next time. Bye.